Welcome, guys. Today we're going to have our freelancing talk, which is the third one. And we're going to talk all about taxes. So, how to do your taxes, why they're important, and how to not get into any problems with the government. It's kind of tough because we're all in different countries. So, we're all going to have different taxing necessities. we all have to tell the government our expenses in different ways and different tax brackets and different benefits. So we need to be very aware. But there are things that are kind of general for all of us. And I've done freelancing in 3 different countries. So I have done things differently in each one. And I think that can help you understand how to go about it, how not to get into trouble with the government, and different tips and tricks that I have that have been really, really great in my life. Our last presentation, just to remind you guys of how that went. So we were talking about budgeting and how valuable we are, how to really understand how much we should charge, depending on what we're including in our work, the deadlines, the fields, the expectations, if it's a group thing or if it's just you. We also talked about the client relationship, the transparency, the veracity, the responsiveness, and the clear goals with establishing that relationship with them. The competitors, who are you competing against? How much they're charging? How long are they taking to do everything they're doing? And how much should you bid? Your value, the benefit of their competitors. How much to charge and how to adapt different business models to how much you should charge. So some models are like hourly rate, the outcome, the performance, the impact, or the constant work. And we went through all of those and saw how to really take a look into each one and see which one is more convenient for the software necessities you have, for the if it's more like an outcome-based project, if it's more like, okay, how much impact am I supposed to have? And we talked about examples of those. We also talked about something that I really love, which is building your brand. How can you present yourself to the client in a way that is fresh and new and different? And why would they choose you instead of choosing someone else? We talked about our hourly rate and how we should charge. We talked about the cost of your software, your hardware, your electricity, rent, all your like regular work-related expenses. And then we talked about your personal expenses like food, living, gas, and how those things play into it. And then taxes and paying others and how that affects your wallet, your paycheck, basically. So today we're going to dive deeper into that. And yeah, we saw the benefits of being a freelancer. And that was kind of like a last talk, just so you guys have a refreshed perspective on what we're going to see today, this Patreon exclusive one. And we're going to talk about taxes and a little bit about financing like we were in the past. So taxes, why are they important? We all know this. Taxes are necessary for every country to function the way they do, to offer public health benefits, to offer benefits to the society, to have the roads working. And it's really sad to live in some countries where you don't really see the impact of your taxes and you feel that that money is being burnt. But there are some other countries where it's really evident and you see all these things that are happening. And it's really beautiful to see that your money is kind of going to the right place. So it's always important for us to pay our taxes. Now let's talk about freelancer versus employee. So I've been both. I've been employee in different countries and I've been a freelancer in each one of those countries. The employee, when you're an employee, the taxes work as in you enter the company and the employer is paying you. And so they're usually grabbing your hourly rate and they're deducting the things that they're going to charge you from that paycheck. So they're going to take a little bit of that money and they're going to use that for taxation. They're going to maybe take some and use it for retirement or extra things that you want, like health insurance, investment funds, 401k, We can talk more about this because I think it's really interesting. I really love finances and trying to understand a little bit more. I'm not super savvy, but I try to really dig into those things. And just for now, if you have a 401k with your company, just as a quick tip, always, and they match a certain amount, always match it. So always go in, and if your company says like, I will give you 3%, jump in and give 3% of your paycheck to your 401k every month. We can match that and give you another 3%. That's so beneficial for you because it's free money that your company is giving away. So just as a tip, always use your 401k as a retirement investment fund. Very smart to do so because it's free money. And health insurance, you can like usually check what they're offering and offer and ask for different benefits and things like that. But as a freelancer, you kind of have to deal with those things by yourself. So you need to understand taxation and laws in your country to avoid having problems and then having to pay more, having a bad record with the government, and also having your, investment funds and your health insurance as established as you can by yourself. Because if you're only doing freelancing, it's important for you to grab a certain amount of your paycheck and utilize it for that. So here are my preferred methods to do taxes. I've done taxes in Canada, in the US, and in Mexico, and they all work differently. So I'm going to give you some tips. I know we all do live in different countries, so it's a little hard to find consistency, but these are tips that have worked for me always. Okay, right now I live in the US, so H&R Block was a lifesaver. They're really good at nothing is paid, obviously, guys. This is like 100% my experience, okay? They were really good because I always want to do my taxes a little bit particularly because I'm always foreign, because it's like I'm doing multiple things at a time sometimes. So I always want to go in and ask for like a specialized kind of attention. And now that I did it with this company, it was so easy and so like problem free that I really liked it. And what I would advise is that if you are doing freelance and you're an employee, or you're just doing freelance, you actually go to one of this, an office, like a physical place, and you ask for a consultation and you say, hey, I have this paycheck, but I'm also making this amount of income. And I'll tell you a little bit more of how you can actually have that on a spreadsheet and ask for a real life consultation where they go in and tell you exactly what you need to do. But my advice is to go to one of these companies first. When I was in Canada, I know Arlie is in Canada. I used Taxo, and I really like Taxo. I would ask for a quote and then do and go about like filling everything up. They would usually come to me with one, like a tax return, and I would always want more. And they were like, oh, yeah, we messed up. And they would give me the other number. I don't know why, but that happened 2 times in a row. So it was not super flawless, but it worked. I know a lot of people use TurboTax as well. I know that one applies for Mexico and Canada. Not Mexico, sorry, US and Canada. I don't know if in other countries it's the case, but there are always these kind of companies that you can kind of rely on if they are consistently giving a good service to people. You can go online and ask which ones are the best for your country, and they usually have some really good advisors and they know their things, so it's usually pretty straightforward. Now, things to keep in mind. How often do you need to pay taxes as a freelance? It really depends on the country. For example, in the US, there's a form that's called the 1040 ES form, and that means, or in that form, you have to pay quarterly. So you have to pay in April 15, in July 15, September 15, and then January 15. Sounds weird because January wouldn't make sense. Like it should go before April, but it doesn't. It's like that's the way they consider the year to be. It's important for you to know this because sometimes as an employee, you're like, oh, I only need to do this once a year. But when you're doing freelancing, then that can change. And you need to understand also at what point it needs to change, because a lot of the time, if you do freelancing but you don't earn more than $500 a year, then you don't need taxation for that. But that depends on the year. I could tell you, like, that depends on the country you're on, but even in the country, like, that changes year by year. So you need to look into that and check, because maybe you don't need to pay taxes just being a freelance if you're not making a lot of money. You can also, if you're a freelancer, opt for things like Maya Indie. For example, if you guys are using Maya and you are receiving from Maya less than, I think, what is it, like $100,000 a year, then you can use Maya Indie and it's cheaper. It's not free like the student version, but it's kind of better. And then how to pay with vouchers. If we are doing freelance in the US, we need to pay with vouchers. That doesn't happen in every country, but it's important for you to understand how much you're supposed to pay, because sometimes those vouchers can be wrong. And if you earn more one year, if say 2020 you earn an amount and then 2021 you're making more money, your vouchers that the government will provide you may have one particular price and you may have to pay more than what you were expecting. So you can be very organized and use tools like this one, like Keeper Tax, where you go in. I just screenshotted that so you can look for that on Google, and you can say where you live, your state, and things like that. This is particularly for the US, but I know that a lot of countries need you to actually go back to the government and say every quarter, hey, I made this amount of income, or every 6 months, or every year. So just to keep in mind that this will help you have like a good rule of thumb of how much you should pay, just in case your tax advisor tells you that you should not pay that much or that you should pay less. So you have like an idea and you go there knowing a little bit more than just like without having any clue of what you should pay. This is what I told you. Vouchers can say different amounts. So always go to a tax consultant. That's what I would recommend. I think it's important. Tip, aim for that refund. I have been with companies when I was in Canada, for example, and tax consultants that tell you, do you want to go in and every month, like, get deducted from your paycheck an amount, and at the very end of the year, have a refund? Or do you prefer to always keep all your money and then pay us back? And I always recommend to get that refund, because you never know. You may be surprised. Sometimes it's like $13,000. You're like, what? And you were not expecting to pay that much because you didn't have something properly structured. So waiting until the end of the year to figure that out can be a terrible surprise. So if you can aim for that refund and pay every month, you will find that it's a little annoying to be, paying every single month, because they're taking money out of your paycheck. But at the end of the year, you're going to get something back. So it's really nice. Feels good. Tip, spreadsheets. Guys, I don't know if you are careful with your finances. I know Sonny is, but I would advise you guys to really go in and try to track the things, all your paychecks, and then the deducting everything that you're paying for your company. And that can help you also, or your company. I'm saying company, but that means like your freelancer brand, or the service you're offering to people. So what I would recommend is really going in and tracking your expenses. And if a tax advisor charges an hourly rate and you go in with a spreadsheet that's beautifully organized, they're not going to take that long. So it's going to be a little bit less expensive for you. These are examples that I found online of how you can do it. It really depends on, again, your country, the amount that you are presenting to the government, and all the expenses that are associated to the thing you're doing, because you can be doing something like management that doesn't need a lot of software, or something really software heavy and dependent and relying on a lot of things, of subscriptions and things of that sort. So always having your tax deductions as, okay, this is how much I'm making of this gig as income, and this is all that I'm paying for, and now these are my personal expenses. And if you always keep something like this, it's great. Also, if you make big expenses that have to do with either I bought a computer, I had to get coffee, I have a Wi-Fi, and I work from home, all those things can be deducted from taxes sometimes when you're a freelancer. So being a freelancer also comes with so much, like a lot of benefits, because you can deduct lots of things of your regular day-to-day life that you wouldn't if you're only an employee. So this is another option, business income expense tracker, where you have just the income, and in the bottom you have the gross income and the expenses. That's kind of like a rule of thumb. And now I want to give you a cool tip, because I didn't know this a year ago, and it's been really, really nice to figure this out for if any of you have the same situation. So orally, I was telling Jonathan and Sonny that I am right now working towards getting my my brand. It's cool that the government asks you for sort of evidence or proof that you are already pursuing to have that brand registered before. So if you can have evidence before the government saying, I have already used this brand and used it as transportation, or someone paid for me and I was kind of using this name already, then that's really important. That's actually a requisite in the US if you want to trademark your brand. So if you in your invoice can add whatever name of your branding, that's really smart. Even if you don't have a registered brand, you can always go to USPTO and check if that brand is taken or not, and just do a quick research. It's really simple. I can tell you guys how to do it also if you're interested later in another talk. And that way you can know some brand names and you can come up with fun things. And once you have something, then just put it in your invoice. Easy, simple, and whatever you're selling, you have that thing piling up. And if you ever want to register that brand, which is not very expensive, it's around like $300, then you have everything you need. So that was the talk on taxes, guys. So do you have any questions? You guys are all clear? You guys are master taxers?
I just
Not
have
really.
one, maybe it's not really a question, but so when you were talking about like registering your like your brand,
Mhm.
I did freelance before, and like either like it's sort of my name. I don't necessarily have like another word for the brand. Like is it still kind of valid? Like it can just be my name?
Yeah, it depends. Every country has different established laws where you can not use certain names, or you cannot use certain obvious product names for your brand or things like that. I had a class in college that really went into what you could and couldn't do, but for Mexico. And I realized that for Mexico is very different than for the US and for different things. I think that you could use Orly Blanchet for your as your brand. Probably in the US, I think you can. I mean, there's Kimberly Clark and things like that that are out there, and they're just names like Calvin Klein. So I think if you want to register your name as a brand, maybe you could do it. I wouldn't see why not. So yeah, you can do that, or start like adding just one random name to whatever you're selling. And it's kind of a good idea also to have a generic name, because then you're not when you're selling more products, if you ever want to just become an entrepreneur and do more things, you don't have to limit yourself to the kind of product you want to sell. So that's also good. If I were to create like a pillow and I love my pillow and I'm like pillow company, then when I want to do like bed sheets, they're gonna have the pillow company in the bed sheets and it doesn't work that well. So it's kind of good to keep it slightly generic. So yeah, it's not a bad idea to just register your name. Check if you can do it. My advice is to go to a lawyer that you can find like in Fiverr or in any freelance website and look for a lawyer. You can ask them these questions prior and then say, how can I register my brand? And they help you. So they charge you like around $100-ish. They first do like a really thorough research um, on if your brand is already taken or if it could be rejected by the government. And if it's not, then they can help you file the petition and all those things. And at least for the US, if you're not a citizen, you need to hire a lawyer. So they help you with that and the filing. And yeah. And even if I were to be living in Mexico, I would try to register my brand in the US. Yeah, because, USPTO is pretty solid. And the US is the biggest market in the world. So yeah, just in case you want to do that, guys. Any other questions?
It's not a question. It's just more of a learn, like, hey, here, like, learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm more than happy to share. Like for me, I have with my healthcare, like this happened just actually from last year after when I was doing at the end of my taxes because I didn't realize that because I made more money more towards the end of the year, and like I don't know who here is also in the States, but basically they tell you to be like, oh hey, like what's your projected earnings, and they go based on that number. So even though I'm paying a premium, I actually went over my original. So like when I got my returns and they're like, the government was like, here you go. I'm like, oh, cool. And they're like, all right, you went over, so give it back. And they took everything. I think I got like $50.
Oh, that's so frustrating. I
So
hate that.
so I don't know if it's like that in like wherever everybody is.
Yeah.
But like regardless, like Ilse is 100% right. Like what even if you're earning more than what you projected, just get in touch with everybody just to make sure that, hey, because I'm in this bracket now, is it affecting like everything else here? And so
Yeah.
that might be something to definitely just keep everything kosher and all good.
Yeah, that's super important because sometimes we can think that we are doing the same thing that we were doing last year, or we are just like looking into things that actually are not applicant this year. Or for some reason, the kind of freelance you're doing for the government applies as a different freelance than other people that you were just taking advice from. So yeah, it's really important. Thank you, Jonathan, for sharing that. Super scary. I hate taxes.
No, I get it.
It's super freaky. So
Yeah,
yeah, you
another
guys.
story. Yeah, another one I had like because I'm doing business with Texas
Mhm,
and how the way they do it basically like we once got a letter from them
mhm,
basically because how the way we registered through their system we had to you could either pay quarterly monthly or yearly and I think the
yeah.
first time I did monthly and I thought I clicked on quarterly. So you have to report what your sales tax is in the state of Texas. And this was like the very first time I ever did this. And I thought it was quarterly, so I never reported. Even though
Mhm,
it was like at that point it was like $0 in sales, you still have to report $0.
mhm.
And I remember they came out and they're like, oh, hey, so we've noticed you haven't been reporting. We will shut everything down.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I have many stories.
Wow,
like
that's
like
crazy.
you live and learn, and it's like okay, fine, and now I'm cool with them. And but no, it's really cool.
Thank you for sharing. So, yeah, guys, if you have any questions or anything, just let me know. I will upload this to Patreon. I'll also upload it to YouTube if that's okay. Is it okay with you guys? Yeah, cool. Just so people have the questions and answers and they see what we do here in Patreon. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and if you need extra support. I am not an expert, but I can maybe help you research tools in your country where people can give you like solid advice. So always trust that solid advice. Yeah. Have a great day, guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.